option 1, 2, or 3. Right? Okay. The next one with regard to the tax planning is on the revenue expenditure against capital allowance. Yeah. So what we are talking here, remember just now that even in the previous example where you are going for example, do you want to acquire the asset? That means that you're going to claim capital allowance, or you want to acquire the asset in the form of leasing. So in that case, you cannot claim capital allowance, but the lease rental is given as a revenue expenditure. Yeah. So for tax planning, it means that you should know how does that implication, right, when an expenditure is treated as a revenue expenditure rather than a capital expenditure. Yeah. So when it takes, for example, you're talking about, you compare between lease rental, right? For example, you purchase an asset, right? For example, a machine. So the option is you want to go for lease rental or you want to go for hire purchase or even a term loan. Yeah. So for you know that if you go for lease rental, the lease rental is given as a revenue expenditure. So when talk about timing, we talk about revenue expenditure. The timing is that whatever you incur, you claim immediately. So the expenditure becomes a deductible or is a allowable expense. So whatever you incurred in that year, you are going to claim that expenditure as a revenue expenditure. All right, it's allowable, then you claim everything one off for the year. But if you go for a capex, right, then the CA, for example, the same amount of the machine that you have to pay, for example, you're talking about a hire purchase, all right, the amount that you have to claim depends on the qualifying expenditure that you incurred for the year, right? So, and then that amount is spread over several years of period. Yeah. So first year, for example, you claim IA and AA. Second year, you claim AA, AA, and AA. So assuming that is 20% initial allowance, 20% annual allowance, you means that you take 4 years to claim the total qualifying expenditure of the asset. Yeah. Are we talking about hire purchase? So because the period will be longer, right, for you, because the method is like that. But if a term loan, then you know that, okay, for a asset acquired under term loan, 20% each IA and AA, you will need 4 years to claim the expenditure. But if you go for lease rental, then you can claim whatever you incurred for the year immediately. Yeah. So as a tax planning, which one is better? Of course, you want to go for revenue expenditure rather than capex in this case. But remember, revenue expenditure in terms of ownership, you do not own the asset, right? But we're talking about the for tax implication. Yeah. The second one is that we get to the set off, right? So revenue expenditure, how do you set off? So it means that if the asset, for example, we're talking about asset which is under replacement basis, yeah. So remember that I talk about assets, small value assets under replacement basis. So all these are revenue expenditure. So what happens is that if it's a revenue expenditure, you're going to set off or you're going to use that expenditure in arriving to your adjusted income, right? But remember that this revenue is an expense. So if you do not have enough income to absorb your expenditure, then you're going to have adjusted loss. Yeah. So adjusted income is nil, so you have adjusted loss, and that loss can be used to set off against your aggregate income. So aggregate income here means that income not only from section 4A but also for C4D. Yeah. So aggregate income. So it means that in terms of the flexibility of the losses that can be used to reduce aggregate income, right, is better. But use, for example, if it's a capital allowance, right, remember that whatever CA available for the year, all right, for example, if your adjusted income is nil, can you imagine here, you have adjusted income is nil, then, all right, your CA will, even though you do have your CA, but you're not going to utilize your CA for the year, right? So you're going to carry forward your capital allowance to the future years. And that future years, it means that whatever CA available can only be set off against the same business source, right? So you must make sure that in the future years, in order for you to utilize your capital allowance, you should have sufficient adjusted income. Yeah. Okay. In terms of utilization, is similar to the set off just now. We talk about the current year loss if not utilized, right? So just now we said that, okay, if you have adjusted loss set off against your aggregate income, but if not fully utilized, then you carry forward to next year. And next year, it becomes loss brought forward, right? When current year, you carry forward, but if you in the following year, the loss is actually brought forward from the previous year. So some students, even in the final year, I know that some of you also confused between carry forward and brought forward. All right, remember that you're accounting students. This term should be a clear distinction. Which one is the carry forward? Which one is the brought forward? Yeah. So that's how is the utilization of the adjusted loss. But in terms of the CA or any unabsorbed, it carry forward against the same business income. Okay. So the next area that you want to look into under tax planning is that the issue when you have disposal of assets, right? So when you dispose of assets, what would be your adjustment? What will you do when you have disposal of assets?
Balancing charge or allowance.
Yeah, you have to compute your balancing charge or balancing allowance. So balancing charge, it means that you have your residual expenditure is less than your disposal price. It means that you have a gain on your disposal. So balancing charge, so namanya charge mana dia income. Bila income means that you have to pay tax on the income lah, on the balancing charge. That's why bila balancing charge, adjusted income plus balancing charge. Yeah, but if you have a balancing allowance, allowance is always a deduction. So that's why namanya capital allowance, balancing allowance. Yeah, so allowance is a deduction. So the allowance will reduce your SI, but if you have a balancing charge, it will increase your SI. Right, because balancing charge is plus, balancing allowance is a minus. So it will have an impact on your statutory income. So for tax planning, all right, so company may have to decide when they want to dispose their asset, right? They will do some computation first, all right? So company that really look into their tax matters, so all these issues will be considered first before they make their decision, right? Why? Because if they want to dispose any of their asset, they will look into whether there is a balancing charge or balancing allowance on the disposal. Why? Because if it is a balancing charge, it means that you have to pay additional income in the year, isn't it? But if it's a balancing allowance, it will reduce your statutory income. So for tax planning, if there is a balancing charge, remember tax planning, the objective is always to eliminate, minimize, or defer your tax liability. Yeah. So if there is a balancing charge, we always do not want to dispose this year. We're going to dispose that next year for tax planning, right? So if you have the option not to dispose yet, all right, you hold the asset until the following year, then only you dispose. Okay? If you have a balancing charge, why you defer your tax liability? Rather than you pay the balancing charge in the current year, you will have the balancing charge in the following year. So that's how you defer your tax liability, right? But if you have a balancing allowance, right? So balancing allowance, then you say that balancing allowance will reduce your SI. So that's why you try to dispose at the end of the year, right? Dispose in the year so that you can absorb your adjusted income, reduce your statutory income. So when I talk all about this, right, I hope that every one of you have that format of your balancing, of the format of your tax computation. Mana Saya bagi kat mana? Did I give you the format for the tax computation? I think dekat tax planning, right? Tax planning. So, in order for you to do well in your tax planning, right? Ni bukan. Ni apa? Ni ada. Computation chargeable.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Sabar. Tak ada.
Welcome back.
Right, so far so good. Okay, I do not know, am I lagging a bit? Because I nampak muka I macam slow skip movement tu. So I think that is a bit lagging. Mana dia I punya tu tadi? I buka tadi. Computation, this one. Right? So I hope that when I say about your adjusted income, when I say about your, right? So you should have a very clear picture lah. Alright, bila I cakap adjusted income, balancing charge, capital allowance, statutory income. So you should be able to have that in your mind. Alright, it's always in your fingertips dah. Dah tahu dah kat mana adjusted income, kat mana statutory income. Alright, advanced tax. This one should be in your head already. Yeah. Okay, the next one is that we're talking about upon disposal. Remember that there is a clause where we say that it's a clawback. Have you heard of a clawback? What is a clawback? Anyone? Pernah dengar tak clawback? Pernah buat tak the treatment of clawback? Tak kot, doktor. Tak pernah ya? Okay. Siapa pernah tengok Wolverine? Cerita Wolverine. Cerita dia Wolverine. X-Men ke kan? X-Men ke? X-Men lah Wolverine. Macam ada dengar Clawback ni you nampak tak? Dia punya Wolverine tu kan? Dia punya claws dia tu kan? Dia clawback. Dia tarik balik. Kerak macam tu tau. So bila I cakap clawback, you bayangkan Wolverine. Okay, the clawback. So it means that whenever there's a disposal of asset, and that asset was purchased, the disposal takes within 2 years from the date of acquisition. Right? So within 2 years, it means that you have to check lah bila you acquire the asset and bila you dispose the asset. So if the disposal of asset within 2 years, right? Then, right, and then plus there's no commercial justification, right? Commercial justification means that you dispose the asset suka-suka hati, right? You buy and you don't like it, then you dispose off. So remember that when you purchase an capital asset, right? Capital asset betul lah kan? So you're going to claim in the first year IA and AA. Yeah, so you claim IA and AA in the first year. When it comes to second year, right, you dispose the asset without commercial justification. So what is accepted as commercial justification, for example, is accident, right, or any mischievous could happen, or for example, if the machine does not fit for your, for example, when the machine does not fit into whatever the bigger picture of the factory, for example, yeah. So normally that would be accepted as a commercial justification. But if there is no commercial justification, then the disposal of the asset, yeah, will be clawback. It means that, all right, whatever you claim normal circumstances, bila you dispose, you akan kira in the year of disposal, there's no allowance given, but you're going to determine how much is the residual expenditure, right? So bila tahu RE berapa, then you compare your disposal price, then you know whether it's a BA or BC. But in the case of clawback, alright, dia tak ada macam tu. So bila you clawback, it means that in the first year you claim IAAA, in the second year, in the year of disposal, whatever that you claim, right, in the previous year will be treated as a balancing charge. Yeah. So what happened is that it means that, for example, if the company, right, can you see this now? Okay. For example, here we're talking about clawback. So year one, let's say that year one you claim IA. Tak nampak lah. Kenapa ni? I masa marking je okey je. Hari ni bila I perasan bila I pakai Gmeet ke apa dia hang sikit. Okay, tak nak. Okay, dia tak nak work kat situ, tengok kat tempat lain. Okay, ni pun dia dah hang. Dia tak mau gerak. Dia wang. Okay. So let me share with you, for example, when talking about clawback. Okay. So let's say lah QE dia berapa? QE is 100,000. Oh, lembab ni. Okay. So it means that then you're going to claim IA and AA. So year one, you're going to claim 20%. So assuming lah, right? Times 0.2, right? And here also times 0.2. Okay, your IA and AA in the year one. But in year two, you dispose off, right? So it means that in the year of disposal, because you're going to claw back, right? So whatever that you have here, you have claimed how much here? 40,000. Okay, so whatever 40,000 here in year two will be treated as a balancing charge. Right, year two dia akan jadi balancing charge. So what it means is that, remember that in the first year, this one is your capital allowance. Right, capital allowance is given as a deduction, but year two, alright, the same amount is given as a balancing charge. So impact dia apa? What's the impact on that allowance that is given in the first year? Huh? So the allowance given in the first year deduction of 40,000 now is added back in the second year. So they set off lah. Right, so there's no allowance actually is given on the asset because why? The principle of clawback. We take back whatever allowance given in the first year because you dispose the asset within 2 years without commercial justification. Is that clear on the clawback? Yeah, so clawback is only applicable if there is no commercial justification to withdrawal within 2 years from the date of acquisition. So normally in the second year, you will, whatever the CA in this first year will be treated as a balancing charge. Okay, all right. So then, what else do we have? Revenue done, disposal done, right upon disposal. Okay, the next one is on a control transfer. Yeah. This one also you have not covered, right? Control transfer. So control transfer is all related to asset as well. So where within a group of companies, there could be company A and company B. All right, these are related companies. So when talking about related means that you have to look at the definition of related. All right, it could be that A and B and C company. So if any of A and B, so related normally we look into the 70% punya ownership. Yeah, so it could be direct ownership or it could be indirect ownership. So this should be covered lah. Are you clear about this relationship? 70%? Kita buat masa group relief hari tu kan? Ada tak? Right. So make sure that you know, you understand what related, yeah, because this one applied also under control transfer. Okay, control transfer. So what happens is control transfer is that when a company A and company B, which is related, yeah, so transfer an asset. So because the A and B is within the group of companies, so the transfer within the same group kita panggil control transfer. So what is the implication of control transfer? It says that, all right, when you transfer normally, all right, bila you transfer, in other words, you dispose your asset. So bila ada disposal, then you have to compute BA and BC. But because it's a control transfer, the law regards that within the same group, there's no transfer. Because they are dalam satu, still in the same group, yeah. So for that, all right, the law says that, okay, we apply control transfer whereby to the disposer, all right, dia akan ada two parties, disposer and acquirer, yeah. So to the disposer, the dispose of the asset to a related party is a no gain, no loss. So you don't have to compute BA and BC. To the disposer is a no gain, no loss. So there's no BC, no BA. Is that clear? Right. But to the acquirer, right? So remember that this asset, the disposer may have acquired in year one, right? And use the asset for several periods, right? And then only dispose to company B. So bila dia dispose to company B, you know that every year you dah claim IA, AA, and AA. Alright, so maybe the residual expenditure in year 4, bila you transfer, dia dah tinggal maybe 20% only. Assuming that the IAAA is 20%. Are you following me? Faham tak cerita apa ni? Ha?
Faham.
Faham So maknanya sekarang ni, katalah company A, dia beli aset in year 1, dispose in year 4, IA 20%, AA 20%. So bila you dispose in year 4, you cannot claim any AA in year 4. Yeah? So the RE in year 4, how much? Assuming that QE is 100. What is the RE in year 4? Agak-agak lah. Right? QE is 100, IA 20%, AA 20%. My question, what is your residual expenditure in year 4? What is RE? QE minus all allowance claim. So Damia, 20k lah. 80k is the total allowance that you have claimed in year 1, 40, year 2, 20, year 3, 20. So year 4, you ada RE, another 20,000. So bila you control transfer to the disposer, you tak payah kira BABC. It's a no gain, no loss, right? But to the acquirer, company B, because it's a related company, it's a control transfer, to the acquirer is deemed that the asset is acquired at the disposer's QE. How much the disposer QE? 100. Right, so it doesn't matter how much actually B paid to A, but the QE of B is the disposer's QE, which is 100. But can the acquirer claim capital allowance based on 100? Yes, but restricted. How much acquirer can claim? Maximum is 20,000 only. Why? Because it's based on the remaining RE. Ya, so dia takkan start balik tau. Acquirer takkanlah claim balik start based on 100 baru nak claim balik another 20. No. Acquirer only have 20,000 capital allowance that can be claimed on the asset. Even though, for example, B paid 60,000 lah on the asset to the disposer, to company A. So whatever amount paid is disregarded. You don't care about how much is paid, but what is available for company A, company B is only 20,000 capital allowance. So bila B claim 20,000 in year 4, in the year of disposal kan. So year 4 disposal tak boleh claim sebab that is the year of disposal. Acquirer akan start claim in year 4. So year 4 acquirer can only claim 20,000, but in year 5 can acquirer claim some more? No. Why? Dah zero rise. Because why? RE dah habis. Yeah. So dia kira macam because it's a controlled company, right? So it seems that the asset actually was not actually disposed by company A. Right? It's still within the same group of companies. So dia assume benda tu kat situ je lagi. Cuma yang bezanya siapa claim? Disposer claim sampai sini, the acquirer continue to claim on the asset. So when looking at the control transfer, it's always that benefit the disposer, but acquirer will be at the disadvantage. Why? Because the amount of CA available is depending on the available residual expenditure. So that is what a control transfer is lah, right? So transfer of QE between group of companies, assets are deemed to be transferred at RE, right? No BA, no BC. Yeah, okay. In the textbook, we do have one chapter on control transfer, but the issue here is that what is lengthy in the textbook is because you have to decide which year of assessment that disposer or acquirer will start claim on the asset. Which year that disposer will have the final year to claim on the asset. Sebab you cannot have acquirer and disposer claim capital allowance on the same year of assessment. Tak boleh. Dia mesti ada, okay, up to this year disposer claim, starting from there acquirer akan claim. So dia akan macam tu. Right, dia tak boleh at the same time, but it remains very macam tu. Right, you claim sampai sini, acquirer start to claim sampai, disposer claim up to this time, acquirer start to claim from this time onwards. Right, but remember that whatever available to the acquirer is restricted to the amount RE available. If you're talking about an asset which has a 20% and 10%, that it may take longer period. It may take a longer period for the acquirer to claim lah. But in the example that we gave just now, it's a 2020, so 5 years period, 4 years period je. So that is restricted lah on the acquirer. Yeah. So generally, control transfer is this one lah, right? Where you have to decide, there's no BA and BC, then you have to decide which year disposer claim, which year acquirer akan start claim on the asset. Yeah. Okay. So far so good. Okay, yeah. All right. So the next one is on tax planning. Again, is on the business income and your investment income. Right? You have to do, when you want to do planning, you have to consider, right? What's the difference having income and as a business income or having your income under investment income? So business income is your section 4A lah. Alright, and investment income is under section 4D. Senang you nak compare apa? You compare rental income. Whether rental income assessed under section 4A or rental income assessed under section 4D. So you look at the advantages of having business rental income assessed under section 4A. Alright, for example, bila you assess under section 4A, any capex you incurred for the property, you can claim capital allowance. Alright, and then remember that kalau ada adjusted loss, then loss can be used to set off against all business source. For example, in this case, against your aggregate income. Right, kalau current year loss you tak fully utilized, you carry forward to next year. Right, and then set off against aggregate income, carry forward to next year, and then remember that you are also available for group relief. Yeah, business income tu. But kalau investment income, you don't have all this lah. So benda ni, alright, actually it comes back daripada mana? It comes back from the tax form kat sini. Yeah, so if you play around benda ni, so you should be able. So normally, right, bila soalan tax planning is more of an explanation rather than doing the computation, jarang. Right, normally you have to explain, alright, what is the the advantages, alright, how is that different between business income and investment income. So benda tu you kena explain. I noted that, alright, remember that my midterm exam, right, it's an open book, right? It's an open book question. But bila it's open book, alright, you can refer to the textbook, you can refer to the internet. I noted that most of you, I think that soalan nombor 3 on investment holding company, advantages, disadvantage, most of you memang refer to outside sources. Yeah. But betul you punya jawapan tu ada kat situ. But I can see that when you have that answer, you jawab tu, it's not from your understanding. You just copy and paste. Alright, of course I say that, okay, it's an open book, but you still have to put that in your own words. Bukan you copy paste macam tu. Right, so for example, advantage of ni, tanya pasal 61.2 tu memang ada student yang exactly ambil pada textbook, that part. I know, benda tu sebiji satu paragraph, section 61.2. Memang some of, not some lah, I would say a few of you actually copy paste betul-betul benda tu dari situ. Without understanding. Alright, so bila I mark the paper, alright, I look for understanding. Alright, it's not copy paste. Bila I cakap what is the treatment bila 61 to apply, you have to write it based on the understanding. Alright, you're talking about, of course, it's there, tapi I tahu bila you tulis pun, you tengok balik apa yang you tulis tu, yang you copy daripada textbook tu, you faham ke tak apa you tulis? So I won't give full mark kalau you copy paste macam tu. Right? It has to be from your understanding. Takkanlah nak buat soalan, use your own words, use your, based on your understanding. Benda tu is logic, dah patut faham. Right? Kalau yang cakap you copy paste je soalan jawapan tu, memang benda tu memang ada je. That's why kita kata boleh open book je, kita tahu. Benda tu memang ada. It's just that you have to put that in your own words. Right? Remember your final exam soalan memang theoretical, right? Tapi you have to put in your own words. Okay, remember that. I do give marks lah, but I don't give full marks, right? Soalan ISC tu lagi best. Semua sama je. I don't know whether you understand my question ke tak, right? Kalau you tengok soalan investment holding company tu, advantages and disadvantage or limitation tu, right? Tapi if you explain, alright, from your understanding of learning that topic in class from the textbook, you should be able to get full marks. Yeah? Okay. So remember for final exam, of course, I'm not sure whether it's an open book or closed book. I tak tahu. Right? I don't know whether UTM allows open book. I don't know. I pun tak diskan tahan mimah lagi. Right? But remember that even if it's an open book, right, you do not copy paste macam tu je. Right? It doesn't show your understanding. Okay. Coming back to, all right, this one is done. And then investment income, for example, when you talk about investment income, it always refers to your 4C4D, your interest, dividend, and rental income. So this investment income is also called as passive income. Because why? Katalah macam interest tu, you don't have to work for it. Duduk diam-diam je, passive. Right? Means that you put your money into the bank and then you receive interest income. Or you put your money into a company, then you receive dividend income. You put money into a property, then you receive your rental income. So that's why namanya passive income. But kalau business income, section 4A kita panggil active income. You have to work for you to generate the income. Right? So namanya active income. So under investment income, you have all these interest, dividend, rental. It has to be assessed separately. Yeah, but right, contohnya katalah you macam ada rental income. Yeah, so you have rental income property 1, property 2, property 3. So even though dia kata separately, right, each source maknanya interest income, dividend and rental lah. Tapi kalau property macam ni, you compute, if you have 4 properties, you total up your gross income from all the rentals minus gross expenses. So you jangan buat property 1 gross minus expense, property 2 gross minus expense. So you akan rugilah sebab maybe here you have adjusted income, but any property 2 you may have adjusted loss. Yeah, so for that purpose, for rental income, you akan compute gross income minus gross expenses. Totality. So total daripada setiap of all your properties. So income dia berapa, expenses dia berapa. Okay. In your question, for example, right, bila you nak kira contohnya distributable income, yeah, remember the formula is that your income minus allowable expenses, right? Then you dapat to your adjusted income. Tapi kalau lepas tu dalam soalan tu ada bagi juga you non-allowable expense, right? So it's just that distributed income ni dia bukan based on you punya section 33. So it means that even though it's non-allowable, you still it's a cash basis, right? So you still minus your non-allowable expense. So you minus your allowable expense, you also minus your non-allowable expense. But there are very small number of students whereby bila dia dapat non-allowable expense dia terus add back, right? So that is wrong, right? It means that your understanding is very wrong because why? Bila you add back non-allowable expense, so it's when, what is that? What? Okay. Benda lah benda. Gangguan my husband. Ni lah antara distraction work from home ni. Okay. So non-allowable expense bila you start from profit before tax, you add back your non-allowable expense. Why? Because you add back because in arriving to profit before tax, you have deducted those non-allowable expense. So that's why you add back. Tapi kalau you work from gross income, you minus lah non-allowable expense tu. Yeah. So that is another related to lah in your understanding. Alright. Deductibility of expenses under investment income, it has to be section 33. So dalam ni dia tak ada section 34. Right? Kalau business income, you ada section 34. Dalam investment income, you don't have section 34. And if you have a loss, right? The loss is a permanent loss. Contoh macam dividend single tier, right? Even though you do have expenses or interest income on the dividend ke, right? It's a loss. It's a permanent loss. When you say that the interest is no longer deductible because why? The dividend is exempted or final. So any expenditure incurred for that is disregarded. Contoh juga macam interest, right? Kalau interest income tu ada interest expense, tapi kalau interest income tu is exempted, you tak adalah tolak lagi, right? So it has to be section 33 means that you can set off the expenses against the income tu accordingly, right? Otherwise, it's a permanent loss lah. And finally, of course, your investment income, even though you do have incurred your capital expenditure, you are not entitled for any capital allowance. Okay. All right. Next one is interest restriction. All right. So I think that we have covered this topic as well on the interest restriction. All right, where you have to allocate the interest expense accordingly to the usage of the loan. Right, because remember that the interest is attached to the loan. You take up loan, you have to pay interest on the loan. So the interest, alright, remember that section 33, interest ni kena attach dengan loan tu guna untuk apa? If the loan is used for business, then all the interest is set off against your business income. But if the interest is used for investment purpose, right? So it means interest. If the loan is used for investment purpose, for example, used untuk purchase property, like loan used to purchase shares in another company, so then you have to allocate, alright, the interest expense to different source of income, right? So these are the adjustment that you have to do. And remember that the interest expense deduction is restricted. Right, I think that the company has presented on this because now kita ada restriction 20% I think on the amount that is given as a deduction. Alright, on the interest restriction is covered. Investment in company, I think that this among the last slide. Oh, macam banyak je lagi few more. Yeah, investment in company, katalah company have a lot of money. So for tax planning, again, going back, topik dia apa? Tax planning. So for a company, kalau you have extra cash, right, most likely you have to invest the cash rather than leave the cash idle in the bank, or invest the money. But you have to decide, you want to invest in a company atau you nak invest macam mana? How to generate more income, alright? So the option is either you go for equity financing or what we call debt financing. Equity financing means that you use the extra money, alright, the extra cash that you have, you buy shares in another company, right? Kalau debt financing, it means that you extra money, you pergi bagi orang pinjam duit you, right? So you give loan to other companies. So this loan normally is within the same group of company lah. And normally a holding company lah, normally yang akan bagi loan to dia punya subsidiaries. Yeah. So what happen is that you have to look at in terms of tax planning. Kalau you buat equity financing macam mana? Kalau you buat debt financing macam mana? Right? Tax implication. Right? Or in other words, for tax planning, which one better for the company? Nak letak shares ke? Nak buy shares ke? Nak bagi loan to companies and you receive interest income in returns, yeah. Kalau you have shares in a company, of course, the returns is in the form of dividend, right? Dividend here is no longer imputation system. Sekarang ni kita panggil single tier system. Okay. Single tier, right? Bila single tier system, alright, you have to be aware that as a company, bila you invest money, alright, in this case, if you have extra money, no problem lah, right? You invest, you dapat shares, and the dividend is a final dividend. Yeah, single tier, kita panggil final dividend. But in other circumstances, if the company invests, in order to invest in another company, to buy shares of another company, dia pergi ambil loan. Right, ambil loan untuk invest. So loan tu attach dengan interest, expense. Alright, bila dia dapat dividend from the other company, dividend jadi final because under single tier. So whatever expenses that is attached to the dividend is no longer deductible. Right, so rugilah. So means that company kalau nak invest in shares, make sure that alright, you have sufficient cash so that you don't have to borrow. Bila you borrow money to invest, then you cannot deduct against you punya dividend income. Yeah. But interest, of course, remember the interest tu sekarang ni dah is no longer deductible lah. Non-deductible against final or dividend. Yeah. So single tier system, so dia punya final exempt dividend. Bila dapat exempt dividend, overseas or exempt account. Okay, so when you have that section franking ni dah tak ada. Okay, Command Z balik. Okay, right, remember that the interest is now restricted. It's no longer deductible. Okay, jadi. Right. And then you're talking about in terms of interest ratio, tapi katalah you have the money, you put the money, you give loan to another company, alright, in that case you get interest income, right? But if you have to, in order for you to give loan to your subsidiaries, you have to borrow money from the bank, right, to give loan to your subsidiaries. So in this case, you, for example lah, right? Of course, company is for profit making. So katalah you have to pay loan to the bank at 4%, you will charge your punya subsidiary 5%. So in return, you ada extra 1% lah, right, to pay as an income lah. Because sini 4% kena bayar pada bank. Sini you dapat 5%. So ada extra 1% je lah as your income. Yeah. So you have to monitor lah to make sure that whenever you have to give loan to your subsidiaries, right, you have sufficient income to absorb your interest expense. Yeah. And then withdrawal of investment macam mana? Kalau kat Malaysia, right, I don't know, I'm asking you now. If you have shares in another company, right, if the company is a listed company where the shares is traded in the open counter, you can always buy and sell, isn't it? Right? Any one of you actually play shares ke? Can you share with me your experience? Tamil tak ada main shares ke? Siapa main shares?
No,
Right?
doctor.
Eh.
Only friends.
Dia senyap-senyap tu dia main shares tu tau. So orang main shares ni sekarang dia kaya, especially kalau dia invest in those COVID-19 related company. Yeah, those yang produce mask, those yang produce gloves. Ni vaksin nak keluar. Ada unit trust. Siapa main unit trust, Tamil? Not good enough lah. Tapi of course lah, alright, yeah, but yeah, I know that some of my students here are actually active traders. I don't know when they actually have the time because dia ada banyak method kalau you nak main shares ni. So whether you want to invest in shares, whether you want to invest in properties, apa lagi nak invest kat mana? Make sure that you gain the knowledge first. My husband tanya ada orang nak invest in wives. Tengok tu. Tak apa, I don't care. Kau mampu, kau jalan. Okay? Alright. So whatever you want to invest, alright, remember that you have to get the knowledge first. Right? Ada main shares yang dia main letak je, dia buy the shares and then just wait. So benda tu you tak payah nak monitor. Right? You can just inform the computer or the apps, dia kata okay bila dia reach certain amount, certain price, jual. So you tak payah monitor. So that one of course is easier. You don't have to monitor so much, but again, low risk, low returns lah. Right? Kerja pun tak banyak passive je kan. So you can expect lah the return. But if it's an active traders, you have to monitor the movement of the shares. Alright, you have to banyaklah you have to learn. Right? Whatever you want to do, please learn from the experts. Yeah? Do not do things without having good knowledge. And once you have that knowledge, continue to get further knowledge in whatever that you are doing. Okay, so that's my advice. Okay, so withdrawal of investment, if it's a non-listed company, all right, the withdrawal is not that easy, right? But in terms of the dividend, the interest, investment in company, right? In the textbook, it mentioned that you cannot buy back your share. I'm not sure. I think that there's a buyback and treasury shares tu ada, right? So these are the things that you have to consider, right? And then another topic is on the group relief, right? We have covered this. I think that we have covered very detailed in the presentation on group relief, so I will not go into that. And remember that group relief could be part of your final exam. All right, and then resident status. Yeah, resident status for company is very easy. Right, for company to have a resident status, they just have to management and control in Malaysia. Right, as long as they have major board of directors meetings in Malaysia, so they are a resident company. A company alright, it's very important for them to have a resident status because most of the tax incentive only given to resident, right? A resident company. But for individuals, alright, company, once you are resident, you are assumed to be resident every year. So you don't have to prove to the inner revenue that you're resident for every year of assessment. So once you are resident, you are assumed to be resident until otherwise proven. Okay, but for individual resident status, you have to check every year whether you do have that resident status. Alright, for Malaysia, no problem lah because you are always in Malaysia, especially masa PKP ni kan. So you always in Malaysia, so you will have that section 71A, 180 days in Malaysia. But you're talking about experts, alright, expatriate, for example, their resident status changes from one year to another. They could be in resident this year and no resident the other year. So they have to monitor lah, alright, as a tax agent. Kalau kita ada, for example, when I was working last time, we know who are your clients. Right, katalah you pegang company A dan company A ni ada expatriate. So they are directors tu, you kena tengok lah resident status dia. Alright, you have to make sure that okay, apa yang tak cukup and to make sure that he is a resident for the year. Right, so we will advise the director, alright, to make sure that they do have that, they fulfill the requirements under section 71A, B, C or D. Yeah. Why is it so important? Because resident status give you a lot of advantages, right? They are given preferential tax treatment, right? So all this is very important because you're talking about their income, right, is a lot. It could be millions a year, yeah? So the tax implication is very, ada impact lah, yeah? Between you pay 28%, sekarang ni lagi ada 30% kan? So all these things will be taken into consideration lah when you do your tax planning. Alright, so that conclude our class topic on tax planning. Okay. Okay, pukul berapa sekarang ni? Okay, 5 o'clock. 1 hour I covered tax planning, right? Second part of the tax planning. Any question on tax planning? Right. Last Sunday, I've given you tax audit framework, kan? Okay. So next class, I will cover on the tax audit framework. Right. I will not go through the tax audit framework one by one because you are supposed to read that audit framework. Yeah. But what I will go through is regard to the self-assessment system and how tax audit play into the plays the role lah. All right, in ensuring tax compliance. Okay, so that's audit framework. So any other question? Tak ada? Wah, ada orang yang Bitcoin. I sampai sekarang I tak belajar lah what is a Bitcoin semua tu. I said dah too old lah to understand all those tech punya all this transaction. Never mind lah, I duduk diam-diam je, okay? Alright. Any question on tax planning? So this will be, I think that yes, we do have this in your final exam. Yeah. Okay, what else? Okay. Kalau tak ada apa, sebab I dah cover punya topik tax planning, so I will just go through your answer in your midterm, yeah. So when I go through the answer, I hope that you have a copy of your answer with you, yeah. And then if you go through and then you see that there are some errors, right, that I have not marked your paper correctly, you can always PM me, right? We can always talk about it, right? I hope that many of you can actually improve the marks, right? So maybe is there a way that we can add on a few more marks, right? You are welcome. Okay, I will just show this very quickly because I'm not supposed to share with you the solution directly macam ni, tapi because online kan, never mind lah, right? So let's see, question number 1 is on the estate and trust. All right. Soalannya tanya apa? Tanyanya importance. Alright. Bila soalan tanya importance, you bagi kat I lah apa importance. Nak yang tu je. Importance. Alright. So cakaplah importance. You tak payahlah terangkan. Tak jadilah. Tak apalah. Alright. Importance. So some of you ada yang tak menjawab soalan. So but I think that I have indicated lah. So most of you got 3 marks kat sini. So selalunya importance dia of course executor kena manage. Alright. Kena settlekan any debts and then make payment or distribution to the beneficiaries. Right, and to deal with the deceased welfare. So all these, any 3 of these lah. Yeah, and then in terms of the tax treatment of an annuity, alright, to the executor annuity could be, katalah trust body tu, jarang lah trust body tu sebenarnya akan dapat annuity. Siapa nak bayar annuity pada trust body? Jarang. Very rare lah. Tapi, well, I take that consideration, but I'm not actually looking at to the trust body, the annuity payment is given as a deduction against your aggregate income, and then to the recipient is a section 4E lah, is a accessible or chargeable to tax. But if it's paid out of annuity paid by Malaysia Insurance Company, then the annuity is exempted from tax in the hands of the recipient. Okay, question number 2, alright, asks about the total income. Alright, the question asks for compute the distributable income. So I clearly mentioned compute distributable income, total income, and then the statutory income of the beneficiary. So I expect answers that you should have columns for your total income and your distributable income. Alright, so this is the example where some of you, alright, put your non-allowable expense as add back, alright, you plus your non-allowable expense. So remember that this one is your business income. Yeah, so bila business income, mau besar pula. Okay, tak boleh. Right, bila business income, you just minus allowable expenses, but for the purpose of BI, you can also minus non-allowable expense. So sayanglah bila you add back tu, I tak boleh bagi marks kat situ ya. So each of these is 1 tick except this one, tak ada tick ya. Okay, profit from sale of an apartment is a capital gain. So it's not taxable under total income, right? But you can put that as an income under distributable income, right? Dividend under total income is a final under single tier. But under distributed income, remember that when you get dividend single tier, it's not 100% you receive. You only receive 76%. So distributed income again is a cash basis. How much you actually receive? You only receive 34 instead of 40,000. Betul? Is it 40,000? I think so. Yeah, 40,000. Is it? What is the income? Dividend from Malaysia. Even though kat sini dia letak gross kan? Tapi what you receive is not gross. What you receive is net of tax. So that's why it should be dividend 34,960. Rental is 54. You can minus allowable expense for your total income, but distributed income you minus 2 lah. So for those students yang tak buat distributed income, memang you akan hilang banyak lah. About half of the marks is gone. Yeah, because you tak buat that computation for distributable income. And then the term is very important also. Alright, I do give marks for the terms here. You have aggregate income, annuity to mother, yeah. Remember that annuity under total income is annuity payable. Tapi for distributed income is actually received is only 40,000. Why? Because the question said that you have to pay annuity of 48,000 to Miss Jane, but you actually pay annuity to Miss Jane of 40,000. So that's why the difference here is the annuity payable. Here is the annuity actually received. Right? Donation is also given as 6,000 each. Right? Same. Trustee fees is deductible either at this level or dekat business macam mana you nak tolak, benda tu is deductible under distributable income. Then you have total income 70,000. Kalau you dapat actual 70,000, you boleh dapat claim marks. One more tick ya. And then distributed income is at 95,960. Again, is for the term, and the figure accumulation is 20,000. I do not know why you give 20,000 times 2. Most of you ada buat 20,000 because, is it because a sum of 20,000 is to be set aside for Mary, but this set aside bukan annuity. This is what we call accumulation. So accumulation is deducted after your distributed income, bukan part of your annuity. So some students buat annuity kat sini 40,000, 48, lepas tu ada 20,000 lagi, right? So it's not. So it's an accumulation that 20,000, yeah. And then you have DI after accumulation. Again, this one is DI after the term is given here. And you show me that because bila ada accumulation, you have to have this A times B over C, yeah. 2 marks for that. I don't look into the figures, yeah. You have to show me your workings only. Because if I were to look into the figures, je memang susah lah, student mostly takkan dapat benda tu, yeah. Right. And for the beneficiary, because the question asks for the distributable income, total income, and statutory income of the beneficiary, because this one is a non-discretionary trust, then you apportion accordingly lah, 3/5. Alright, this one 1 mark, and then I think this one is 2/5, right? And the amount here is based on the amount of the deemed total income. Okay, and Jane is 48,000 lah, because based on the annuity payable. Okay, so this is the question where I say that, okay, dia kata explain the tax treatment. Alright, bukannya so you explain nama dia 61(2) tu. Right, bila you copy from the textbook, I know that you are not actually answering my question. My question is, what is the tax treatment? Yeah, tax treatment for 61(2). No computation is required. So actually bila you 61(2) means that trust will not be taxable. Tax is 0. Yeah, but tax will be paid by the beneficiaries. There's no tax credit given to the beneficiaries and more cash outflow lah. Alright, more cash flows in the hand of the beneficiary upon receipt of income, because dia dapat 100% rather than 76%. So there are 4 points here, and there are 4 marks there. Right, and the second question, how would your answer be if the trust, we are talking about this soalan lah, right? If the trust is deemed discretionary trust, so means that when they're discretionary trust, then you have to choose the lower of the total income and the amount received. So in that case, I don't ask for the computation, but still you can tell me that for Jenny and Kenny, if there is a discretionary trust, then you have to take the lower of. So Kenny, for example, 33 here, but then actual receipt 28, so you akan ambil 28,000. Jenny here is 22,000, but actually received 20, so you take the lower of. So here you show me all these things, you get another 4 marks. So that is question number 1 and 2. Question number 3. Okay. Question number 3 is a Sendian Berhad. Yeah, Sendian Berhad is not a listed company. In March 2019, they will apply. So company is still a non-listed company. Alright, so they bagi gross dividend here. Labuan offshore is, I assume that you should know because we do have presentation on this. Yeah, Labuan offshore income is exempted. Pioneer company also income is exempted. Malaysian subsidiary is a final. Right, and then interest income from overseas is a exempted. Unconvertible is taxable 30. Commercial bank is also taxable. Gain is a here, gain on sale of quoted shares is a capital gain, right? But you are going to use this when you want to compute gain on sale of investment, right? Similarly for gain on sale of your land. So this one will be used for the purpose of computation of your 4C. Okay, let's look at the answer. So the question asks for compute tax payable by Maju showing all relevant tax adjustment. That is 17 marks. Okay, so I expect you to show me how to compute your permitted expenses. So most of you got it right. 164,000 permitted expenses. So whenever nampak 164, I terus bagi 7 kat you. Right? 7 marks kat situ. 7 kita ada 6 kat sini, but if you get the common, because katalah you add on, for example, masukkan travelling expenses, dia dah akan jadi 171 dah. Yeah. So because of that, this totality, kalau you betul, you akan dapat 1 tick for that. So total kat situ ada 7. How to compute your B? B is actually your taxable income only. So your taxable income is only your interest on convertible loan, interest from your commercial bank, and rental income. So total sini ada berapa tick? Ada 3 tick. Right, your B is 200. Ada students yang tunjuk kat I, interest tu dia terus ambil 200, one figure only. Tak boleh sebab I cannot give you breakup of 70 and 30 kat situ. It's not fair. Yeah, you have to show me individually. So bila you buat exam, alright, tax for example, you have to show your workings clearly. Alright, you tak boleh ada dalam rough paper lah, benda tu kat kepala you lah. No, I cannot go and dig your head. Right, I can only give marks based on what is written on the paper. Kalau tak ada kat situ tak boleh. Yeah. And for your C dia kata gross income. Kalau gross income maknanya you tak adalah tolak you punya expenses. No need to deduct your expenses. Right, some of you deduct you punya interest lah, you deduct you punya apa yang 25 kat sini benda apa tak tahu. 25 kat situ mana datang tak. Yeah. So you just ambil gross amount lah. So total to 175. So most of you ada tolak 50. 50 ni kat sini ni. Kalau loss, right, so sebab in order for you to compute C, alright, it says that definition is that gross income. So kalau gross, maknanya kalau ada loss tak masuk lah. Gross income je. Kalau ada loss, you tak adalah tolak pula benda tu. Yeah. So dia akan tax you on the income. So you get 2175, sebenarnya you dapat 8 kat sini. Alright, kalau you dapat figure ni betul, sebab kat sini dah ada 7. Kalau kira sum, I think kat sini ada 7 items. 7 items kan? Lepas tu total 2175 tu I bagi 1 mark juga, so kat situ ada 8. Okay, and then you show me your A, B and 4C, you dapat 2 ticks there and 5% of your B is 2 ticks also. Yeah, so I tak kisahlah you punya B pun salah, C salah, itu dah kira kat atas. But you just show me your workings, and then when it comes to your computation of your tax, your ISC, right? Dividend kan ada few dividend tadi. So you show me that your Labuan offshore is exempt, Pioneer is exempt, and Malaysia subsidiary is final. Ada student yang tulis exempt, I do accept that. Yeah. Interest overseas is exempted, and this one is taxable. Commercial bank is also taxable. Rental income 100, and then quick rent assessment of 2 and 7. Alright, some of you give me also your gain on sale of quoted share. Remember that the gain on the disposal of your asset is used to compute your C, alright, A, B and C. Tapi that gain is non-taxable because the gain, capital gain, alright, it's not taxable. It doesn't go into your tax computation. So you don't have to put that into your ISC. Aggregate income is 191, but I give marks only for the term here, not for the figures. Right, fraction of permitted expenses must be the same as you have decided above. Right, you decided A, whichever is lower kan? Between your A, B, 4C dengan 5% ni, so it should go whatever you decided above, right? It cannot be any other figure. And most of you forgot to put your approved donation. So from there you have a chargeable income, all right? Not for the amount, but I want the term for that and tax at 24%. Some of you put tax at 70%. 17% tu untuk SME. Alright, company besar. Alright, it doesn't mention but it's an SME. So you have to assume tax is always at 24%. Alright, and then the second question, assuming that it's listed, alright, ever the company implication of the tax computation. So actually bila dia listed in November 2019, alright, so the company is deemed to be a listed company, right? some of you jawab benda tu dia still non-listed. So sebenarnya salah lah. Alright, bila dia dah listed, year end is 31st December, then the company is a listed for YA 2019. Yeah. So for that, you have to tell me the implication of being a listed company lah. So actually, I know that most of you answer actually from the public ruling, right? The tax treatment. Cumanya, yeah lah, if you have all these points, then I give you lah. Right, so ada banyak point kat sini tapi maximum I bagi 7 marks only. Yeah, advantages and limitation I have mentioned earlier, you cut and paste betul, so I'm not so happy with that. So I don't give full marks for those yang copy paste. But those yang boleh explain, for example, limitation of your I see actually a lot lah. Alright, you're talking about permitted expenses, restriction on all those income, expenses cannot be deduct everything, tak boleh nak carry forward losses pun tak boleh absorb. All these things is the limitation lah. Alright, because I'm seeing them from the tax perspective lah. Because kita belajar ni belajar subject tax, right? Cakap pasal apa tin capitalization lah, and then you don't explain that. I pun tak faham apa benda-benda tu, right? And then no explanation, so I don't give full marks for that. Yeah. But if you want to fight for it, maybe I can look into that again. Yeah. Okay. So habislah soalan midterm. That carries 60 marks in total, but I will only take 20% of that. Habis. Question? Habis. Kepala balik. Tak ada? Pukul 5.17. I nak buat apa ni ya? Sekejap Kita tengok kita punya course soalan balik. Are we okay or not? I already have the marks for your group presentation. Cumanya I have not put into the in the Excel form. Yeah. So let me check this one. So tinggal apa Tinggal tax audit je lah. Is it? Apa topik dalam final exam? Apa I highlight tax planning ni done. Group release semua ni done.
Withholding tax ada ke doktor?
Withholding tax tak ada. Withholding tax is tax 1 kau tax 2 kan? But you must know your withholding tax related dengan cross-border transaction. This area, this topic ni adalah masuk withholding tax. Dengan cross-border transaction ni, you punya permanent establishment, you punya withholding tax, you punya exemption, tax relief, DTA, semua tu cross-border transaction lah. Tax audit investigation, tax audit ada cover kan? Nanti I bagi tax investigation. Sebab benda ni, alright, I do not want to cover in class because you have to read that, alright, and it's very clear stated under the framework, alright. So what it is, so my question later will not be direct answer from the framework, but again from your understanding. You, of course, the answers is there, it could be there, but you have to put that in your own words lah in order to answer my question. Yeah. Right. I takkanlah tanya what are the types of audit, right? What are the responsibility of tax officer? Takkan tanyalah soalan-soalan macam tu because it's there. Right. So it doesn't show your understanding on the topic. So it's always that lah. Okay, so I think that we have covered. So I'm yet to cover next class on the tax audit framework and tax investigation as well. Then we can wrap up the class lah. If you don't have any more else. Cepat tak habis?
Tak apa doktor, boleh study.
Je. When is your first paper?
6 February I guess.
Oh, okay. 1 week jugalah. You punya UIA punya revision week dia Saturday and Sunday. Kemarin. Last week. Last class was Friday. Revision week Saturday, Sunday. First paper on Monday. So my daughter now tengah sit for her advanced tax punya paper. Salah. Tax 2 punya paper, my daughter. Tu dalam bilik sekarang ni. Right, so that's the third paper. Monday, hari ni hari apa? Wednesday dah kan? Oh, cepatnya. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So hari ni hari ketiga. Third paper already. 3 more to go. Next week. Right, so you all ada 1 week tu okay lah. Yeah. Okay, so if we don't have anything else, I think that we can end our class today earlier. I hope you don't mind. All this while kan kita memang on time. So hari ni kita dah start leave early lah. Yeah. So I still owe you marks for your group project, which is the magazine or the what apa panggil poster kan. Yang tu I belum ada rubrik lagi nak bagi markah macam mana. Yeah. So I think that's all for today. If you don't have any more question, and if you have anything that you want to raise with regard to your midterm exam, right, you can WhatsApp me and we can have a discussion. Is that okay?
Okay, doktor.
Alright, so with that, I thank you again for your attention. I wish you all the best. Please hold on, alright, during this PKP. Yeah, so